Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October SMPTE meeting. We're coming tonight to you from Talamus in Waltham. Talamus is one of the major cinematographer rental houses in Boston. Our host is Dave Talamus. And if you're not familiar with Talamus, you should come out and visit there on Bear Hill Road sometime. I think you'll find it very, very interesting. Our topic tonight is a masterclass with cinematographer and gaffer Ben Heald. And the specific topic is about wireless DMX. And if you're familiar with cinematography, you'll know that DMX has to do with light dimming, but now you can do it wirelessly. Ben, who has 15 years experience in the industry as a cinematographer and gaffer and director of lighting, is going to be assisted tonight by Zach Kellon, who works with him. And I think you'll find it very, very educational. I didn't know anything about wireless DMX. I certainly knew about DMX, but not wireless DMX. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben, and he's going to take it away. Ben, it's all yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ben. This is Zach. This is Mike. We work in lighting for film, TV, that sort of thing. I just want to sing the virtues of wireless DMX, which is integrated to almost every project that we do these days. I can't think of a shoot that I've been on, small, large, anything that has not integrated some sort of wireless DMX technology. And I guess just to lay the base out here, try to understand DMX. Does everybody know, like, DMX, how that works? So Zach gave me this really good analogy. Imagine a street with 512 houses and 512 mailboxes, and those are your channels.
The scale.
And so the DMX is a protocol that fits into all those channels, and each of those mailboxes will get a value between 0 and 255. And so the mailboxes are the lights. The DMX protocol is the system happening here, and the values between 0 and 255 are these commands that are translated inside the light to, or the light or the system, the dimming system in older. And so through that system, you're able to affect a whole bunch of different settings on lights. Fan settings, strobe settings, color, effects. I can change intensity. I can do all sorts of stuff here. Just on these tubes here, I can adjust the intensity and get a little funky with color. All of this is being delivered as just simple packages, the values between 0 and 255 in this whole chain. So there's a couple different ways that we use wireless DMX. I'm going to talk about kind of some small ways, some medium-sized ways, some big ways. A lot of times on smaller shoots, will use my iPad here in a program called Blackout. There's several other programs that you can use. This is one of the better ones for this size thing. So Blackout gives me a functionality of one universe, which is up to 512 channels. Lights take up different amount of channels, but I can control all the lights I need to on a shoot with a small size. And with Blackout, I can do basic stuff like intensity changes, color changes, basic effects, stuff like that. And that is all done with, there's a couple different pieces going on. So this is, with any DMX system, there are a few pieces. There is the console, this, the transmitter, so I'm sending commands from the console to the transmitter, and the transmitter is then sending to the lights. And so some lights have internal wireless. They'll pick up and by themselves without us adding anything. Older lights, many different kind of lights will have a DMX in. A lot of times we would just cable them. For this light here, I have a wireless receiver, basically, that integrates with our package. This is called this antenna. There are a bunch of different models and companies. There are a couple of different ways that wireless DMX is able to function. These guys know a bit more about it than me, and I want to kind of break that out. So one that we use most often is called CRMX. Technology built on the backbone of Bluetooth, very similar to Bluetooth in the way it functions. Your units will pair with the transmitter, and they'll only take instructions from that transmitter. And then there are a couple of others, and I want you guys to talk about streaming SACN and ArtNet, if you want to maybe speak up there, Mike.
Sure. So just to kind of break those out a little bit, CRMX is a protocol that wireless transmits on. It's a, excuse me, it is a jumping band kind of Wi-Fi system, so it operates in the 2.4 Wi-Fi range, and will, when it sends transmissions, packets, it jumps channels if it finds any interference. So, you know, in our world where, particularly on set, we might have 15 things that are running on that same 2.4 bandwidth of Wi-Fi, CRMX will jump inside of that frequency to find a clear channel so you don't have to assign it, which creates kind of a better workflow where we don't have to be concerned that our signal is going to be jammed by camera or really strong Wi-Fi on a stage, which is something we run into all the time. Now, when we're talking about SACN versus ArtNet, those are DMX protocols. So they are just different protocols that the DMX is actually sending on. So you can do that wirelessly, you can do it hardlined. It's really how the console speaks with your system. The difference between those is probably something we don't want to dive into specifically, but SACN is the protocol that is more becoming more widely used. It's a more robust system, although, you know, we can get into the conversation of updated versions, and Zach and I will debate that all day long. But you just need to kind of make sure that each of your systems is operating on whichever one you select. My recommendation, if you're doing something like blackout, would obviously be SACN because it can't even do ArtNet. Whereas with a console like Zach has here, we can make a little more educated decisions with those things. But you're generally safer to just go SACN with everything. Did you want to add anything to that? Cool. One other thing, so we were talking earlier about the 512 channels in a universe of DMX. So a fixture like this might use, so this one specifically uses 7 right now. And that's because one channel is going to do 0 to 100, or in bits 0 to 255 for intensity, for red, for blue, for green, for your Kelvin chart, so 1750 up to, what are they, 20,000? 20,000, I think. And then your color correction, so green to magenta, nice. And then a crossfade, so that allows you to dial your color temperature, or dial in a blue, or, yep. And then, but we want it to be a little more tungsten. So 50% tungsten, yeah. And so each one of those parameters is using an address in our DMX universe. Does that make sense, everybody? Awesome. Cool.
These guys would come in with the assist. Does anybody have questions thus far? Mark?
Yeah, are special lights required to work with this, or you just connect a receiver?
Not necessarily. So a tungsten light that doesn't have DMX built in can be controlled by a dimmer that will. A lot of this technology, like DMX technology, comes from theater and these installs. And so in an old theater, you would have these big racks of dimmers, and that's what the console will deliver controls to, and the dimmer would actually dim the individual fixtures. So you can integrate DMX into tungsten lighting. You just need an extra step. You need a dimmer. With all this LED stuff, a lot of it, all that technology is inside the light. So all you need to do is connect it to your DMX network in order to control it.
Would that even apply to lower cost LED lights, or is there a cutoff?
Yeah, as long, there's probably a cutoff. You'll find some manufacturers will have their own app or won't have DMX integration. But anything with a DMX in can be controlled wirelessly with either a Centena or a Lumen radio. Or
What's the range?
depends on the manufacturer, but like this Stardust, when it's up in the air, what's the range on that? Like
300, 300 feet. I haven't tested it at that range, but line of sight 300 feet for the wireless is what they're rating.
And then there's also technology that we build in to repeat signal if we get in bigger builds, and to add nodes. And we've done some lighting over like city blocks, and we need to be able to control lifts that are way down there. And so we know that specifications where, okay, I'm going to need a node over here. We'll run cable to this node, and then the node will go out to wireless. And we'll have to
Can it operate with a control console, or does it just talk directly to the lights?
What specifically?
Well, if you're let's say you're using a DMX hardwired console, is there integration with it, or is the integration only directly with the light fixtures themselves?
It would be with a transmitter.
So pretty much,
transmitter.
so pretty much any console that you'd be running outside of like a iPad-based system will have capability for hardlining in any facet that we would normally use. We generally operate in 5-pin DMX, Ethernet, or wireless. Is generally our systems that we connect with. So any console. So for instance, this custom that Zach has built, this custom that I have here, will all run all three of those systems. I have this one built specifically so that I can run out of vans. So when we're doing process work, or we're going very small, very agile work, I will run this because I can run our entire truck package through just something in a Pelican case. This has a battery inside of it, and it's running the same system that Zach is running here, with less convenience of his, this is still a touchscreen, but he has a lot of fun dials and practical control that this is a little slower to work off of, but it's an agile, small system. So, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I got one more. Sure. If there's anyone else has a question, please ask. But I was wondering if it can be run from a web browser.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not very work friendly.
Yeah, but
it can be done. Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
no.
You're fine.
And the newer consoles can do Wi-Fi directly to a transmitter and then out, but most of ours just do hardline in because it's...
We generally don't.
Yeah, I honestly probably wouldn't trust just that hardline to the transmitter, just for latency and for interference.
We've definitely found latency issues with wireless connections to a transmitter.
So when you're pre-planning your lighting scheme, so the 512 channels is your cap?
For one unit.
For one
Oh,
universe.
for just one universe?
Yeah.
So that means one unit?
So,
Or
oh,
multiple?
I'm sorry, I'm stepping on you.
So basically, each light will have a certain, based on the profile that you're choosing for the light, what it needs to do, will take up a certain footprint in that universe. And it's just the nature of DMX that it only has the packets of 512 channels. But you can, like this right here can do up to 8 universes at once, this transmitter.
Oh,
You can
okay.
get, you can always add more universes. It's just a matter of adding more transmitters, more nodes, more cable,
Oh, okay.
more coordination.
And there are bottlenecks to it. You come into parameter counts with different consoles. So what that means is, as we were talking about, this can do 7 different parameters. So your intensity is one parameter, blue, green, red, you know. Your 12,000?
6,000.
6,000.
12.
So 12, so his console's limited to 12 universes worth of parameters. So 512 times 12 is the max amount of parameters that he can control. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have more than that stored, but you can't actually physically control more than that at once. Yes, exactly.
With one board, you could theoretically have multiple consoles, right?
Yep.
And be controlling the universe
Yep.
6 through 8 year. And
Right.
Done that before.
And breaking out things like, oh, we're doing a big concert, but we want our stage, our film lights on this console, and we want the performance stuff on this console. It's generally better to do that anyway, just for peace of mind of controlling.
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, exactly.
What brand is that transmitter?
This one is Lumen Radio.
It's a Lumen Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Lumen Radio
This one's
started
also Lumen Radio.
Lumen Radio. Okay.
So they're kind of the originators of CRMX as well.
Okay.
So they created that technology, and then created these transmitters, then partnered with a bunch of different companies that create receivers and transmitters as well, like Rat Pack. Now, we were talking earlier about tungsten control. Rat Pack is a great company for that. They create a bunch of products to control different tungsten sources, different, before we had things like Titan tubes and Astera tubes, we would always run into issues with
Tungsten, yeah. So Rat Pack makes these great lunch boxes that are a bank of outlets that each outlet can be individually controlled, and they can be integrated to a wireless setup or a wired setup. And so you break out in your normal power distro, and then you have a little lunch box of dimmers that are already on your control, and each one can do 20 amps. You can do 2Ks, and we've done setups with big 12K tungsten units that are, each individual bubble is controlled by one particular plug, so we put them all into a Rat Pack, and we can make fire or do all sorts of effects with them. Any other questions about some of the stuff right here? Anything else you guys want to say? It's kind of quick here, but we can talk about.
Do you want to talk about this versus this?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I'll talk about. So this is my iPad running Blackout. Symbol I chatted about before. It's a simple program, but really fairly robust for a one-man band or like a small shoot. I can control one universe of fixtures here, and I can connect with one transmitter. And I through the patch window here, I can address. These are all the fixtures I have right now patched in. And these are all the channels. Each one of these squares represents one fixture. So this fixture, when I control it, I can control the intensity. That's my tube over there. I can also go to the Foxboro and be adjusting that. I have full functionality. this is great for small commercials, for short films, for indie features. It's great. But when I don't need to do crazy special effects, when I don't need to have big builds, full stage builds or whatever, this is like a small truck package, and everything's just integrated in here, and then we can just whip it out and it's already under control. Makes things a lot simpler than having to go over, when I'm on a little commercial shoot, I can be with the director of photography and be like, okay, let's adjust that fixture, just do a little stuff. Anything that is more complicated, when I know, like a medium to large size feature, a big commercial, something on a stage, I'm probably going to want a programmer and a board. Because as a gaffer, coming from a gaffer, and even as a DP, the scope of a project like that is going to be, I'm going to be really stretching myself thin if I'm controlling all the lights and also gaffing, coordinating the crew. And so it makes more sense for me to have a person that's doing all the networking, the programming, and the adjustments, who's on walkie, and I can really work with the DP for subtlety and more, I guess, intimate setups and being more creative. So when I approach a project and I see the scale, like early on, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna need a programmer for this as part of the core group. And when I do that, Mike has traditionally been my core programmer, and I bring Mike on. Mike, if you want to talk a little bit about your process, like coming on as a programmer.
So when I come on to a feature to program, it's generally working out. I tend to like to start with, all right, let's talk about our biggest setups. So working out what is going to be required on my end of control as a first aspect, because that might determine I need to run a different board than I would normally bring in. So this board is nice for small things. I have needs on a movie like somebody dance, or I want to dance with somebody, that were far exceeding what that's capable of. So that would be the first thing. Then we determine, what we're going to need for networking control, all the different tools we will need, and what kind of prep we need is a big one. So I'm always pushing for significantly more than I get, because we can get down to the point, if we really want to, of making sure every single one of these lights is calibrated to the exact color temperature to match each other. And sometimes it's as far off as this light that is from the same exact kit won't match that light. So we can get into the very, very specific aspects of color temperature matching and find those specific aspects if we have enough prep time. We never have enough prep time to do that. So we tend to figure that out as the show goes on, dial things in as they move forward. But then it's a conversation too about, do I get to staff anybody? Do I get to have a rigging programmer? Do I get to have a DMX tech? Do I get to have a network tech? Rarely. But these are all things that are great to have, because then when you walk onto set, your network is set, it's reliable, you're not scrambling on the day. Case in point, this right here, before you guys came in, we spent about an hour trying to figure out why it wouldn't communicate with his console. Communicates with mine fine, but there's always little bugs. It's always something dumb. Just a little, and what it was a number was just off by 1 on this. It wasn't an address thing. It was a universe network node that was just, shouldn't have been an issue.
Buried
it was.
It's digital.
Yeah, right. So I can't stress enough how important prep time is.
Yep.
and how much that, just like anything else, allows for.
Just to, for me,
Do you want to talk about
you
labeling?
can pass this around
Oh.
just to get a sense of some of the larger.
That's the biggest
setups
thing we do in prep.
that we need.
Yeah,
Some big wireless.
shouldn't be.
Prep for.
When we are prepping, we will put together every fixture that we know that we're going to have on the truck. We will assign a profile, which every one of these has 10 different ways you can tell it what you want it to be able to do. So if you only want to be able to see red, green, and blue, you can set that, and it's only going to use 3 parameters. But if you want it to be more complicated, if you want it to do more things, you can give it more parameters. And so in doing that, you're assigning the profile of each fixture. So everything on our truck, we will assign a profile to, we will assign a DMX address to, and we will assign a channel. The channel is what we use to tell the board what light we want to talk to. The address is what the light is listening for, because that's its address, you know, its home address.
It's like name and social security number.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we go through and we put together that list, and that might be 20 lights, it might be 300. And then we label every single one of them
You can see on the back here.
as such, so that we can see our fixture numbers, our address, our fixture number is the channel, our address, and our profile.
For a couple reasons, right? So if something gets messed up on the day, we know that this is where it should be. So if we can look at, oh, why isn't it working? Oh, well, the address is different. And then the channel number here is so any electrician on the crew can refer to it. Okay, what light are you near? I'm near 801. Oh, head over there to pin it down, do that sort of thing. So it's a really important communication device, the labeling. And then everybody has their own way of labeling and style. There's a whole conversation about labeling that's really fascinating. So that's a fun aspect of the DMX.
The
Is there an industry standard, sorry?
No, no.
The tape coloring?
No.
No,
No.
that's just my best boy likes the silly colors.
If you
Yeah.
go in theater, they're more particular about things, but we kind of just freestyle it.
and a lot of times you'll see printed labels. These are, I believe everything's coming off of much smaller shows right now, so
Yeah.
they're
Hand drawn,
they're all hand drawn, but
artisanal.
it can be daunting to do that with 300 lights. So it's sometimes better to just print them all out, and then you just go put this on that one, go put this on that one. Yeah, labeling is fun and useful and saves everyone a whole bunch of headache. The other thing with lights like this is you might have noticed that there are 2 labels on this. The reason that there are 2 labels on this is because this fixture has the capability of doing pixel mode. So there are internal presets to which profile it's set to, but this profile is set to only do single control of the entire fixture. This profile, which is a much higher universe because it's not used as often, is 8 pixels on this fixture. So it might not be used every day, but we give it the capability of jumping to it if it's needed later on. And that way we're not using up massive amounts of DMX parameters on our everyday use, but we have the capability to change it over if we need to.
Any further questions? So, what I'm passing around here, this is one setup from a movie called Madam Web. Maybe be out sometime in the 2020. That's downtown Worcester. And there was a whole kind of car sequence there. So we had to have lights down at the end of the street, around all these corners, and that was part of our plan, showing where the fixtures were placed. And I believe that I set that plan to be networked. So that's without the wireless network kind of notes on it, but you can see like the scope of some of our plans.
I have a question.
Sure.
How much time did it take to set up those lights for Madam Web?
So that particular setup was probably a 2 or 3 day rig.
At least, yeah.
Maybe a 3 day rig. You know, they got the lifts into place, they built the lifts, they cabled. You know, we scouted first off. We scouted Lowell, Worcester, and Lawrence, and we ended up choosing Worcester due to its size and proximity and look. Its look compared with Brooklyn, I think, where they're supposed to be. And then we drew up the plans, and yeah, I would say a week of work, not necessarily contiguous, but a week of work to get this ready to go on the day that we were
That
there.
was a multiple console setup as
Yes.
How disruptive was that?
We came in the evening and blocked off the streets. So, and I think it was a week, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of shoot. So they would build stuff out of the way, and we always cable out of the way. So during the days the place was open, then we would close down the streets in the evening.
You didn't have to close down any streets.
When not while we were working, but when we were shooting,
Sure you did.
when we were shooting, we did. Yeah. I guess we can talk about like applications, like pixel applications, or unless there's any other base knowledge. Any questions? Anything we'd like to know or dive into?
Is there any specific challenge or, well, near pitfall, because what can go wrong will go wrong, off of, you know, the top of your memory, that you kind of like share that you've experienced and recovered through? Regarding-
I remember a Blinky Day on Whitney.
He blocked that out.
Mike blocked that.
Yeah, I blocked it out.
So
what was the
on-
Blinky Day?
On
I know it's a tough one.
well, we did a
We
show
lost control
called
of everything.
Oh my God. Yes, I did block that.
I Want to Dance with Somebody, and we were doing a scene in an office room, and we walked in the set that had been rigged by the electric riggers, you know, and they were gone. We walked in, and it was, you know, similar size to this room, a big office room, you know, it's supposed to be in a high rise, and it had ceiling lights similar to these that we rigged in. It was our fixtures that we got for that. And when we were pairing, when we sent a pair signal to some other fixture, to like trying to pair some of our truck package stuff, while the actors were in the room, like we were ready to shoot, all the ceiling lights started blinking. Just like overlapping addresses, all this stuff, and we're like, okay, everybody leave for a second. Not that nicely, but and we figured out it was because one of the fixtures that were all chained together was left on receive CRMX when they should have been wired. And so all the fixtures down chain of that were getting overlapping commands and blinking from their board command to another address in another universe. And so we had to go up and look at every single one and make sure they were all set
So
to.
the house fixtures have a system?
They
So
were
it was a set. It was a
a
set
built
that was built,
Oh,
on a stage, yeah.
and in the place of ceiling tile lights, we had.
They
were
used
they
the same
Maxis?
lenses for ceiling tile lights, but
Yeah.
our fixtures, it was Maxes, right? SL,
Yeah.
DMG
Yeah.
fixtures that were.
I mean, in the old
Jesus.
days, we would gel them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, maybe want to.
the difference is you get to have a heart attack when they all start flashing.
Yeah.
In this case, so those fixtures have the capability of, not every fixture does, but those fixtures have the capability of assigning where it receives information from and where it sends it to. So it just so happened that the fixture was set, and I think that whoever addressed that fixture didn't know that it had a where should I send information feature, because that one fixture was set to receive information through XLR, DMX, but send it through CRMX. So as soon as we paired with our truck package, which I think we were taking a tube and turning it into pixel mode.
Probably.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. That fixture went, oh, great, information, cool, I'm here. Oh, and I'm on the address you're sending to, cool. And so in turn, it sent every bit of information it received for a universe it had no place being on to everything down from it.
Something about DMX is it sends the entire packet of information at once, not just
full
individual
universe.
lights.
Right.
So everything in the universe is being sent all at once.
At all
Right.
times, several times, 1,000 times a second.
Yeah.
What does the pixel mode do for you? Give you a very fine adjustment?
Well, do we want to? Can we demo that quick?
Yeah, we can switch over.
Yeah. So pixel mode allows us to do very basic animation. It's a two here.
Should be preset 2.
Yep. All right.
Just
Do I
give
need
me-
to
just give me a
repair
flash
these
on
there?
this one here?
So this fixture and the Vortex 4 there, this is the Vortex 8. This has 8 pixels. That's the Vortex 4 has 4 pixels. These tubes have 8 pixels in them each. And you can use them as a single pixel unit. But when we're talking about pixels, it's basically a part of the imager. As you see here, this here, this here. There's 8 of these in here.
All right, you should have it
And
now.
we can make adjustments on each one individually from Zach's board there to create images, to create dynamic movement. It's great for car work.
Great.
It's great for making fire or any sort of dynamic lighting. And 1 pixel refers to the section of the light that can be.
And each one could be a different color.
Each one basically has the full capabilities of the fixture
You
itself.
could create a flickering flame effect with that.
Yep.
That's-
It's essentially 8 different lights within
Oh, yeah.
one light.
So that's a pixel on that one there.
Can you do some? You get like a fiery kind of thing, Zach, or just
Yeah,
like
it should be. Should be just make sure the profile is correct. Right?
35,
Yeah, 35, 16.
131.
Could it be like a
Oh,
yellow
you're-
light at an intersection, or is that not a?
Can you do what?
example? Could it be like a yellow light at an intersection?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
Anything.
Okay, something like that.
could be anything.
You're patched at 131.
Yeah, it should be.
So for like car work,
Oh, I'm
for
counting
that,
this one.
you can assign like
You could
trees.
set up a line of this. You
Yeah.
could have it going, and I mean, ultimately, it is an incredibly low resolution screen.
Yeah.
But if you have 200 of these backed up far away, you get the larger resolution. And that's kind of the idea of like these LED walls that are there happen. So a lot of times what we'll do, like we did a show with an LED wall and we were helping it a little bit with some lighting stuff, with just adding it.
You got one.
There you go, 131 here.
Yeah.
But it brings up a lot of interesting applications for moving work, for
You have it 35?
fire, for imagery. Imagine doing a scene in a theater, movie theater, and you can push out a low resolution image of what's being projected. onto the actors. So there's all sorts of applications that this can open up. A television screen with actual movement.
Go to 179. See if that gets rid of it.
It's not, it's 179.
Yeah, 179.
179. Your address?
Yeah.
You can just go to the home and go here. So I'll change the address. So that's a lot of what we're exploring these days is like how can we apply this technology to narrative? How
179.
can we create these different dynamic movements and elevate lighting a little bit too? I did a shoot with Mike
Oh, no.
last year
So that's,
where there
that's the
was
issue here.
a
This profile
a bomb
is
in a
not
van.
right.
And there was a scene where the terrorist guy kind of like turns the bomb on. And something that Mike and I kind of developed and presented to the DP was like we had there were little pixel lights, LEDs that we put on the bomb. And we said, what if there was like this little startup sequence that it does? So it goes like, and it has this like personality.
So,
And we presented that and he really liked it.
Yeah.
But that's
so
like this pixel stuff allows us
actually
to
131
to
through
do
201.
Was the unit like a puck light or?
That was actually a little PCB with pixel LEDs.
I'm
on it.
sorry, through 260.
So just and you can get these from
So-
websites for like super cheap, and you just need so pixel driving these LEDs is a little bit different. You need a slightly different controller. These guys can once we've sorted this out, they can talk to it a bit more. But we can build these big pixel setups with a pixel driver that sends information in a slightly different way, but allows you to create much larger images, essentially. You can actually take video from YouTube or something and translate it into the DMX and play it on a light. Zach has done some really cool stuff with that. Any questions for Marty?
It appears there was small RGB pixels in there, and is that how the light color is being created?
Yes.
By
So
mixing them?
basically, yeah, there's several different meanings of pixels, right? So in the light, this whole section here, that's one pixel,
Yeah.
and we're referring to programming.
Yeah, just grab
But
it.
yeah, each of these is
sure.
kind of one pixel as well. And
Advanced.
you can see it when you look at the face of the light.
Two.
There's the way that
Fixtures.
every manufacturer has a different way of doing it on their light. So this has
Yeah.
red, green, blue, warm white, cool white, and I think there isn't, no, there's not an amber. So that's all of those in this lensed kind of, you can see each individual lensing. And so that is repeated. And you can see it here, but you don't see it in the output. You know, there's no multi-shadow, there's no sort of like weird color effect because it's blended well enough through the
Maybe
video.
they do that now, because in the early days, there were multiple shadows.
There we go. That's something. So that now we're getting into the like some of the idea of what we can do with this, like the Pixel 32. There we go. So that's kind of like a little wipe thing. We could use this in a like a process vehicle, a car shoot. That wiping by.
You good if I pull this?
You got a little fire action there.
Yeah.
You do a little. Can do a little fire cue, and all of this is in his board, and we can cycle through it really quickly.
801.
One thing
Point.
in ideal conditions.
Point.
And it gives us these fixtures give us a lot of flexibility and a lot of time. Like on the diagram that you saw, each lift had 6 of these. So
too small
that gave
for
us
the
a
big
lot
one.
of flexibility.
What's the maximum light output on that in lumens? Same with white light.
With this, and I couldn't tell you the number in lumens. Why push it up to 100 there, Zach?
Yeah.
That's it should be going up to full on the pixels at their highest.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So you see it gets pretty bright there.
I can get rid of the effect so you can see it.
That's 100%.
Yep.
It's 100%. And you can also, with these fixtures, you can pop out the diffusion. Hard. It's pretty bright.
Diffusion out,
Yeah. And it's also nice without the diffusion, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes you get a little bit of weird shadowing on very hard, but it's a solid fixture. The vortex. Feel like I'm selling vortexes. I mean, you can't deny it's a great unit. We'll
Sure
go
is.
back down to do a little like club lights or something. I don't know. Any other questions?
Party mode.
Party mode. Trying to think what else we could chat about. I talk quick. There you go, party mode. Basically, DMX, and especially wireless DMX, is something that we've integrated into every project that we do. It is something that's now come to be expected for films and short films and even like small commercials and stuff. It is it opens up new avenues of creativity. It opens up better ways to work together and better creative applications of our ideas, and has a whole lot more of exploring to do, of course, but that's something that has helped us greatly over the years. Any other thoughts to share?
So much like DMX and LED control, increased the speed that we can work on set, allowed us to be able to get more setups done in a day, allowed us to work faster and be more efficient. Wireless has done that as well. So when we introduce wireless, there are drawbacks, and the drawbacks are you have the potential for loss of signal, you have more points of failure as a possibility, which is half the reason I really drive home the prep time requirements. But what it does is it allows you to be more nimble on set. It allows you to come into a space with less of a massive pre-build. So we might, if we're only going into a location for a day, we do not necessarily need to have a data network built into that space, whereas 5-10 years ago you did. Now we can go in with our wireless units with antennas on them, with built-in wireless and a small setup, and control everything without wires running all over the place.
I can add to that too.
Sure.
It also just, there's multiple times Ben says, okay, we've moved on. I want the same levels we had 2 scenes ago. If you're running everything manually, you just have to remember what everything was. If we have it on a board, you save that as a cue, you can go back to everything you had before. So in terms of saving yourself in that situation, it saves your life.
And even further into that conversation, we did a movie a couple years ago where they ended up doing reshoots in Spain with a rig that we built that they mailed out to Spain.
LED match.
And then they called us and said, hey, how do we do this weird thing that you made? and I just sent them a file, and they just booted that file
Right
up
into their board. Oh.
and were able to control it on another continent, because we have the control and we save everything. And months later, when production goes, we have all the values. This doesn't do that.
Are these rentable in the size that you need for a project, or?
Are they
Yeah.
rentable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So is this guy.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, you definitely can. It becomes a little harder to rent some of the more specific things, but if you're just looking for a board that you can plug into a rig, absolutely you can.
High output red sky
Yep.
studios. Yeah. You'll need to know how to operate it and what, but they're available.
And an operating. That's good.
And I've seen more people have iPad stuff too.
Yep.
Starting to-
More and more.
Most gaffers doing small things now will have some sort of wireless and iPad setup.
Is that a good starting point for somebody that's getting into wireless DMX for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think Blackout, or I mean, there are other programs, but honestly, Blackout is the most professional, and it's an investment, but it's absolutely worth it. It's paid off in dividends for me. So it's a good start, and you just need Blackout and a transmitter. And if you're either something like this or something a little less robust, like I have these little satellites, they're small transmitters, you can like magnet them to the stand and stuff. And lights like the Vortex, like the Apertures, a lot of them have CRMX built in, and you can just pair it and just have the transmitter out and do everything from the iPad.
And so, just so you have the costs on these things, the satellite that he talked about is made by Rat Pack. That is probably your most reasonable CRMX transmitter.
Yeah, that
Moonlight.
or the Moonlight, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Lumen Radio makes one called the Moonlight, and I
Single
think
universe
Zach is about to show it to you. That's about $500, right?
Yep,
500 for that. The satellite from Rat Pack is about the same cost.
Can you guys bring out some lights so we can see it?
Oh yeah, you got it now.
Can you?
Here.
1202.
I don't have that one patched yet, but
All right, just do this one.
we'll have this one.
There we go. So this is the Moonlight. The nice thing about this is that you have physical DMX connections that you can make from this unit. The satellite you can't, but there are some more robust features to the satellite that are really nice as well, so it's kind of a trade-off there. Blackout is 500?
600.
600
One-time purchase. 600.
for one universe, and then it's
$100 for
$100 to add a universe to it. So if you become more complicated and are getting more advanced, that's an option there. And if you do want to get into so Zach and I both run ETC's operating system EOS, and if you wanted to get into that route, they sell, ETC sells a USB dongle that you can output using their program for 600, I think.
Yeah, 500, and if there's an education price too.
There is an education price. But if you just want to learn the program, you can go to their website and download it for free, and it just won't output from your computer. So you can learn the program, you can get into it, you can track Zach or I down, and we're always happy to teach.
And they also have YouTube. They have a full learning
they have a
series.
really great YouTube catalog of videos that you should really be following along if you're watching.
And I will say ETC's customer service has been some of the best that we've experienced. If we have any issues,
Yeah, I had a
available.
couple years ago, I had a board go down on set, and I overnighted it to them. They had it back to me in 3 days and didn't charge me anything to repair it. They're pretty awesome, and they'll help you with anything on the phone. They also have fantastic color science in their lights.
Yes. Yeah, this is a ETC lighting fixture, this Foxboro, which is some of the best color reproduction around. Cool. I guess if nobody has any more questions, we can come up here, we can look at some stuff, get a little hands-on, and other than that, have some pizza, have some beer, and
There's
thanks
beer?
for coming. Yeah, there's beer in the cooler. Where do you think I got this thing?
That's a beer?
That's a beer.
I thought it was a seltzer.
Oh, soda. But thank you all for coming.
Yeah. No.
Dave Calamus and the whole crew, what a great job they did bringing this to the world. And It'll be interesting to get a count on how many dealers we have.